It was hot enough in the summer of 1967 that you could fry eggs on the sidewalk. Fire hydrants were uncapped for kids to cool off, and people huddled under awnings just for a little piece of shade. On July 23rd at about 3:15 in the morning, Detroit police, a mostly white police department, raided a blind pig, meaning an illegal after-hours bar in a mostly black neighborhood. And they arrested 2 black veterans who were celebrating their return from the Vietnam War, along with the other patrons in the bar. It was late, but the heat had kept the streets crowded with people trying to stay cool, and as officers loaded people into the transport vans, the onlookers started to shout in protest. The heat was the match, but racism, poverty, and police abuse were the tinder. The rumblings of disruption spilled into the neighboring streets until the 200 officers on duty that night felt overwhelmed.
On July 23rd, Detroit was hit by a riot.
Well, they didn't have to feel overwhelmed for long, because federal and local authorities soon turned Detroit's streets into a combat zone. President Johnson called in the National Guard and the U.S. Army. The mayor ordered a lockdown in the neighborhood at the epicenter.
This block of buildings is now burning.
Every day, the authorities shot people dead. The police killed a security guard caught in crossfire. They killed a man in a supermarket suspected of looting, and they wounded 2 middle-aged women in the process of doing that. The National Guard also killed George Talbot, 20 years old, while he was walking unarmed. 5 days. 43 people killed, 1,189 injured, and over 7,200 arrests were made. Mess with property in Detroit, and that's what it'll get you. James Baldwin famously said that the crackdown was just another way to control black people's movements. There was no solution in these tactics. He said, when a city goes under martial law,
everybody in the city is under martial law. But we all know who's in the streets of America. We know to whom we are referring when we talk about crime in the streets. We know the son of the president of Pan Am is not in the streets. Only one person in the streets, that's me. And they're plotting to shoot me in the name of freedom, dignified by law. And I'm supposed to agree.
No, sir. At last, the party's over. Lyndon Johnson convened a commission following the uprisings to understand why. Why hadn't the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act been the end of the story? The commission released the Kerner Report in February of 1968, about 3 weeks before King was assassinated in Memphis, and they found links between the police and quote-unquote white power. The police are not merely a spark factor. To some Negroes, police have come to symbolize white power, white racism, and white repression. And the fact is that many police do reflect and express these white attitudes. The atmosphere of hostility and cynicism is reinforced by a widespread belief among Negroes in the existence of police brutality and in a double standard of justice and protection, one for Negroes, one for whites. They felt the police should look like the people they're interacting with, and that the tanks and automatic weapons had no place on city streets. Sound familiar?
Breaking news in southwest Detroit, where protesters have clashed with Detroit police.
Once again, in the wake of an upheaval, we are reckoning with how this country polices its citizens. And once again, the solutions are clear. Divest from police everywhere and reinvest that money in our communities of color. We know what we have to do. The question is, will we? Thanks for watching. If you want to know more on this topic, click the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. The next episode in this series is on the 1935 Harlem riots. And use the comments section to ask any questions you might have on policing and racial justice in the U.S.